All right. So yesterday we started with this missions. Before that, a quick overview I'll take for 1-2 minutes what we discussed yesterday. So firstly, we started with obviously the context statement. This is like, we don't have to take special scenarios. Why this is important is, a quicker way to score marks in case study is to give examples from the same industry. That's the reason I was saying to uh, reach out to that other companies. I'll share that file again, the top companies what they're doing. But while doing that, we should not consider special events. Otherwise, uh, if we consider like a special event, the answer might be wrong. We have to consider normal scenario. But if you make proper examples, we'll still get marks. Answer that make relevant reference to current affairs will, of course, we mark on their merits. If we give, let's say, one relevant example, we can get up to 1 marks easy. So I suggest like we have to keep on looking what's happening in the industry and use that example. Examples will make a lot of difference. Especially there are a lot of students who come very close. They feel like 78, 79, 77, that range. If they would have given a better example, a good example, suitable, they would have got that example. Ideally, it should be from same industry, but sometime if we use example from other industry also, it doesn't matter. If it fits, still we can get good marks. For example, when we talk about a failed merger, you can give like famous example of Chrysler and Daimler, a German and US company, the automobile companies, and how the culture was so different. If we are talking about merger, so like this also fine, and specifically from the industry is always better. Your role in the introduction, this is very important. So what is our plan? Our plan is to come up with around 10 special projects and 10 strategic matters. You're a senior manager in Leothayre's finance function. You report directly to the board, advise on special project and strategic matters. So once we do the pre-scene analysis, industry analysis, we should be able to get an idea what kind of special projects can be doing. For example, till now we have just done starting pages, and we can think like we can also get some project from a private. We talk about looking at the farm. The satellites can be used for the farm. Why not? It can be used for a company, a private company. Right? They need security. They need safety. Let's say airport. They might have their own satellite for their maps, isn't it? A bigger corporation. Let's say they have a very big area. They might also need their own satellite, own maps. They don't want to use Google Maps. Possible, isn't it? A company is using, let's say, local logistic business. They might also need. Are you getting the point, all of you? So this can be the special projects. Then once you go into the business, look at the strategic matters. And what is expected as a senior finance manager. For that, we have to look at the CIMA's expectation as a senior. I gave the screenshot yesterday. I'll just share it again. Just give me 1 second. I'll share it again.
Misbah, your voice is breaking. I think is it due to my internet issue or your side? Just can you please check with everyone?
I can hear properly.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, tell me if you can't hear. I'll just repeat it. No problem. Yeah. So I shared it on the group. So that is very important. Okay, especially those who missed yesterday or joined recently. The questions will be coming from there only. Have you gone through it? Or if you have any confusion, we can quickly discuss, because ultimately whatever the industry is, pre-scene is, skills will be the same. If you have not gone through, I'll just wait for a minute, request you to read, then we can discuss.
So, Misbah, you're talking about the top 10 hottest companies
No,
in
no, I
cycling.
am talking about senior finance manager simulating the role. The screenshot I just
Simulating
shared.
role. Okay. Yes, yes, yes.
If you want, I can just share on the screen itself. It will be easier. We can go through it. Just give me 1 second. Because this is like an smarter approach. A lot of times student doesn't know what is expected their role as a senior finance manager, because everywhere we look we are getting a different answer, so it can be confusing.
Yeah.
Is it making sense? Any points? Confusion? I'm also trying to share, just downloading in the laptop. Go one by one. Maybe we have not done all the topics. That's fine, but at least you should have an idea what is expected from us. Questions will not.
Misbah, are you sharing something now? I can't. I can just see only the Preseen material.
No, I am about to share. I've shared a screenshot on the group. Did you see that?
Misbah, I have one question on the simulation.
Yeah.
So I understand that they have to create a strategic, so that they create a value to the organization and pay attention to the ecosystems, governments, corporate governance really has to take care. But there is a point, the business case for digitalization and the manner in which the entity creates a partnership for ensuring strategic success. Even for partnership, creating things and all, well, finance manager will get into that. If the board proposes, then he accordingly work. But will he create anything on his own, something like that?
So partnership is yes possible. Yeah. Can you see the screen?
1 second.
Just trying to.
You can
We'll
see.
go. Yeah. We'll go one by one. Yeah,
Sure.
sure. First, we'll take the points. Which one you said?
Next to that,
Frequent requirement.
on the next business case for
Okay.
digitalization.
Start
Yeah,
with the business case for digitization and the manner
yeah.
in which the entity creates partnership for ensuring strategic success must be understood. as must the operation of capital markets in determining value. Okay. There are 5 skills that are being tested for you in the exam. What are those 5 skills? Business skill, leadership skill, people skill, technical skill, and the 5th important skill is digital skill. Previously, let's say 3-4 years back, this skill was not there. Only 4 skills were there. Now, digital skill is an important aspect of CIMA. So almost every exam will have that question. Okay. So we have to see how we can digitize the business. So usually when digitization happens, the first department to get affected is the finance. And we have to see, for example, if we are looking at digitalization, what is the first thing we'll do? We'll look at cost and benefit, isn't it? Then we'll look at the change involved, then the risk. So everything will start from there. Then, if you see the same thing, they're saying,
Sorry,
very
Misbah.
Yeah.
Could you please repeat that to 5 skills once again?
Yeah, Joseph. So the 5,
Business skill, leadership skill, and the rest of that skills. Could
Yeah.
you please repeat?
sure. Business skill, leadership skill, people skill, technical skill, and digital skill.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So anything with the digitization is also important. Or sometime a simple question is the business. What kind of areas should be prioritized first? Or what is the risk and reward? What is the cost and benefit analysis? Same thing they are saying, as must the operation of capital markets in determining the value. Value, when you talk about value, can be in terms of profit what we are doing, or value what we are bringing for our stakeholders. So the definition of value can be are different in a different section. Okay, make sense? Any question? Shiva, are you okay? Others? Just tell yes or no, so I'll move to the next one quickly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Okay,
Misbah.
okay.
So probably, Misbah, on the second box on the left hand side, so it says that there is a duty to advise on the issues relating to corporate governance, etc. And then if you just continue to read that, it says that when boards are poorly structured and badly managed. So if the board itself is not kind of up to the mark, I mean, I understand, like, I mean, in this case study, like senior manager is kind of a reporting into board, but is something like a board is beyond or above a senior manager, right? So if I mean, I kind of struggling to understand the statement that when it says that, so if it's like it says that risk, I mean, if you read the statement, it says that when you have to report or kind of monitor this risk, and then. Risk arising basically because of the governance when poorly boards are structured or managed. So I'm not sure if I get that rightly or if I'm just kind of overcomplicating it.
No problem. Yeah, we'll go through it. So there's a duty to advise on issues relating to corporate governance. Okay. So firstly, what is corporate governance, or even where does corporate governance come from? It is coming from P3 risk management. Corporate governance is a part of risk management. Why we need corporate governance? To manage the risk. For example, we don't want a CEO to dominate the board. So therefore, we have CEO plus chair. Then we have other board of directors. Then we have NEDs, non-executive directors. We'll see this in detail in chapter 5 when we discuss P3. But usually we don't want in any listed company, especially, one person to dominate. So that is one aspect of corporate governance. Then corporate governance also motivate that we should have different committees like audit committee, risk committee, remuneration committee. Why we need to have that? For example, let's say the executive directors are deciding their own remuneration. What they will do, they'll just do something which is beneficial for them, not for the shareholders. There's a risk. So if issues like this are there, we have to advise on how to manage it. Right? Now coming back to the question, we are a senior manager. So we are a senior manager who are reporting to the board directly. So we are also a part of strategic team. Okay. So the expectation is, let's say a chairperson is thinking certain committee is not working good, or certain executive director is not performing, or there is an ethical issue or any other problem. So we have the responsibility to report on that and give a suggestion. Sometimes we have to be strict, and you can even please remove that person, replace that person. Because when you're talking to the board, they will talk about board issues itself, isn't it? It's not like we don't have authority for that. Even if you get a question, you can even say, we are not happy with the chairperson's work. The board should reconsider, or the nomination committee should reconsider a new person on that. In fact, there was one question previously that we want a senior manager to be promoted as CEO directly. So the question was about more on people skill. They were testing like how you look at it. What are the cultural issues with that? How the other board members will be accepting that? Because usually how it is working in organization, a senior manager first become a board member, and a board member becomes a CEO. For example, like in our case, we are a senior finance manager. The next promotion can be CFO. Then ultimately, or maybe that's the final CFO. Okay, moving forward. They are important both because of the reputational risk arising from poor governance and the threats of well-being of internal and external shareholders when boards are poorly structured and badly managed. So what is reputational risk? When we are not working properly, or any issue that becomes public, it becomes a reputational risk. Especially with social media and all, it's very easy to go viral in today's day. And apart from that, even like the constitution, like how it is made of. Let's say in our audit committee, chairperson is a part. Okay. Ideally, if we see we have to follow UK corporate governance, the chairperson should not be part of the audit committee. But in certain cases, we see that chairperson is a part of that. He or she is part of that. So that is not good for the reputation. It's not illegal to have, but we are not following the best case scenario. So this can be a reputational issue. So we have to manage this. This can affect the confidence of the stakeholders. For example, if you want to get a loan, so bank will be concerned. They'll say, your company is not properly managed, or a single individual is in various committees. Okay, moving on. As an important element of this, the senior finance manager is frequently involved in the evaluation of the control environment and the management of internal audit. So this is again an important part. So we need to have a good understanding. Again, this is testing on the risk. I'd say how we can come up with the controls. So for this, we'll do an exercise. We'll come up with around 50 odd risk what we are facing. and we'll come up with the controls or mitigation for that. For example, let's say if we talk about basic risk of theft, risk of fraud, what we can do? We can do segregation of duties. Or if we are not confident of certain employees' qualification, we can do background verification. We can take reference. So like this, we can put various controls depending on the risk. And what does internal audit do? Internal audit check the controls. So sometimes there will be a question on the effectiveness of internal audit. It can be a discussion question. So if we know their role and responsibility, then only we can discuss it. For example, in certain cases, they'll put or try to put entire blame on the internal audit team if something happens. So we have to create a discussion which responsibility they can take or which responsibility they cannot. Then the last part, the need to manage control is crucial given the increasing danger arising from cyber risk. Cyber risk we have in the second box also, but the same thing. How we can control technically, if there is a changing risk, let's say we are changing our IT system, changing our hardware, software, anything, the risk will go up, especially the cyber risk. We are not talking about general risk. How we'll manage that and how often we are training our team members, all of this will be part of it. Any questions in this?
No.
Great. So these issues or these topics are very important when we are doing Preseen and the topic, the individual papers. I'll just go to the other one also. I'll just go through the second one now. A senior finance manager advising the organization's leaders in the development of business strategy to create value is required. To evaluate strategic options, paying due attention to the organization's ecosystem. Couple of things. First thing is we have to advise, or we can even say recommend the strategy to the organization's leaders. Who are the leaders? The board of directors. Sometimes you're in communication with CFO, CEO, chairperson, any NED member. So we have to come up with the strategy. Therefore, when we just start, I was saying, what are the other use cases? So that is like a strategy. Let's say we need to increase our market share, increase our revenue. So we have to look for other business opportunities, isn't it? That is a strategy. If they ask you a simple question, what are the sources that we can increase our revenue? Or maybe going forward, we are thinking to go into a new market, new industry altogether, which maybe let's say an industry which can create a synergy for us. So that is like a strategy. We have to suggest that and how it will create value for the shareholders. Paying due attention to the organization's ecosystem. What is ecosystem? Ecosystem means like our stakeholders mostly. What stakeholders we have? So for this, we need to do an exercise. We'll come up with at least 20 stakeholders in our business and what is their expectation with us. And when I say 20, it's easy to think of few stakeholders like bank, employees, shareholders, but we need to go beyond that. Especially in this case, we might have certain stakeholders which is uncommon. For example, here government will play a very important role as a stakeholder in the ecosystem, isn't it? Then other competitors, we might be closely working with them because I believe there is a collaboration or there should be collaboration with the competitor in this industry. That can be an important part of our ecosystem. What else can you think of? I'm just giving you an idea. Universities, yesterday we discussed. Who else can be an important stakeholder in the ecosystem? Can you think? Any guess?
Generally,
Ecosystem.
public is the one.
Social, yeah, public, people.
Society
Could be
where we
everyone.
operate. Because where the launch is happening. Technically, we are not doing the launch, but again, we are part of ecosystem. So the environmental impact, the pollution, all of this can also affect. Joseph, you also said the same point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So financial institutions are the banks and our competitors,
All right. We just discuss that. Yes.
and students.
Universities. Can you say universities?
Of course, yeah. Those who are aspirant to join or work in the satellite sector, especially the university students. Yes. Yeah.
This analysis might sound very simple looking at the stakeholder and expectation, but if you think logically, every scenario, every question has a stakeholder only, isn't it? So if we know their concern, what is their expectation, answering becomes very easier. For example, insurance companies. If we have any issue with insurance company, let's say a question come up, there is a conflict going on, or we need to switch insurance companies. So if we know what are their expectation from us, so it will be easier to deal with them. What is their expectation with us? We need to pay their premium on time.
Premium. Yeah.
We need to abide by the contract.
We must
Right.
disclose the facts.
Disclose the fact properly. Good point. You need to be ethical in the dealing. So all of these points remain. Now you just have to change it a little bit according to the scenario. Your answer will be very good. Okay. Then moving forward, ecosystem is done. Risk management is a significant part of the overall responsibility, including cyber risk. So same thing, what we discuss here, cyber risk and other risk, will come up with the major risk. So when we talk about internal control or risk in general, audit or corporate governance, everything is part of risk management. So our exercise of coming up with 50 risks should be enough. We'll try to cover all of this. We'll take risk from every area. Okay. Moving on to the next one. The frequent requirement to support. This we are just discussing now in class, but I want you to keep it handy whenever you are, going to the Preseen or, going for the exams also ultimately. When you read this, you should be confident, oh, this scenario I am able to tackle for our company. Okay. The frequent requirement to support strategic decision making may require the formulation of models and other methods of justifying and legitimating decisions. So what models we are using may require, you are not, required to use certain models, but we might require certain models. Let's say sometime they can ask you specific questions like scenario plan. The company do or think of scenario. What is scenario planning? Scenario planning is like what if analysis. What if A happens? What if B happens? This for the future. So we don't know obviously what can exactly happen, but we are just thinking. Imagine, let's say we are a Chinese-based company. If you go outside an industry and before election in the US, maybe they would have done this scenario planning. If Trump comes, this will change. If the Biden government is still there, this might be the case. So they might have done the scenario plan. They might have done the what if analysis. They might have already expecting the tariffs to be changed. And if this happens, if the tariff change, it goes up. Now, how will deal? What will be the pricing? How will manage the cost? Are we losing the competitive edge? How we can manage the competitive edge with the rising tariff? Can we reduce the margin? So things like that comes under scenario plan. So that is like may require a formulation of model. In certain cases, usually they don't ask specifically any models, but maybe in some cases it can. And other methods of justifying and legitimating decisions. This is very important. Leadership skill. In leadership skill, we have to take decisions. A lot of students, they try to sit on the fence. They just, let's say if there is a question on we have to do internal audit in-house or outsource, or what is the advantage and disadvantage of outsourcing and internal audit. Let's say that question comes up. So obviously, it's just asking advantage. It never asks you to recommend or suggest, but it is expected as a senior person to show your leadership skill. You have to recommend, and recommendation doesn't mean just writing one line, okay, I feel like we should go for it or not to go for it. We should justify why we feel that thing. Not only in this decision, but let's say if there is some issue with the corporate governance, we don't want certain person from the board to be part of, let's say, risk committee, remuneration committee. We can say, you know, this is not in the best case, or it is not according to the corporate governance code. That person should be removed. The reason being this, this, and this. That is justification. Then next, the senior finance manager is involved in the raising of finance and suitable source in order to ensure that new strategies or new strategic projects are adequately resourced. So one question very commonly repeated, which we need to have full clarity, is what is the source of finance? So once we do the financials, it will become more clear. You should have an idea what options we have to raise the finance. Very, very commonly asked question. I would say 80 to 90% of the exam questions have this. So if you just look normally, what sources a company similar to us will have debt options, we'll have equity options, and even in debt, we have to see like long-term debt, short-term debt, or we can issue our own bonds. Then what are the characteristics of each source of finance? Let's say if we go for a bank loan, what characteristic we get tax benefit, right? We don't have to give the ownership. That's the advantage. But downside can be bank is looking for a covenant. There might be certain restrictions on how we are working. Then interest rate will keep on increasing. It cannot be same if our gearing increased, right? Then if it is short term, what are the characteristics of that? So we need to be clear. Then equity, if you're going for rights issue, how it will affect our shares. So in your mind, you'll be very clear what debt options we have, what equity options we have, or sometimes we can have third option. What can be the third option? We can get government grants. We can get government subsidy. Or sometimes we can even get a grant from other companies, other bigger companies into the same industry. Especially when we are into R&D, we can get from the top companies. They might be from different industry also. I've seen sometimes very straightforward questions. What are the debt options available we have, and which one you recommend? It's very theoretical question. But recommendation obviously will be according to the scenario. They'll give you the attached material. Or can we use retained earning? Make sense?
Yeah.
Moving on, the business case we discussed. We'll go to the last one. The senior finance manager advises on matters that involve considerable judgment and that may have a significant effect on stakeholder and therefore must adhere to high standards of professionalism and ethics in the course of the duties. ethics is an important part of the exams. In fact, this is tested on all levels: operational level, management level, and strategic level also. So what are the 5 fundamentals or 5 ethics of CIMA we need to know? What are the integrity, objectivity? We'll still be discussing that, but just for now, if you have studied in the previous one, can you tell me what are the 5 ethics and what does it mean?
Confidentiality,
What does it mean?
to keep the data confidential, not to leaking or breach of any confidential information to the third parties or outside the organization.
Right. There is one more aspect of confidentiality which is missed. If we hide information, that can also breach of confidentiality. Obviously, we don't need to disclose, but sometimes, let's say we are a part of a team and we know certain information that will change the decision or that will affect the decision. So we cannot hide it. If we hide it, that is also a breach of confidentiality. For example, knowingly we didn't disclose, maybe because of other interest, or maybe that person's having their own interest. That is also a breach of confidentiality. Okay, what are the other 4?
Integrity,
Following the-
objectivity,
Following the organization's values, objectives.
Organizations, values, and objectives, and we have to respect, we have to work accordingly, but that's not part of ethics.
Ethics. Okay.
Professional behavior,
integrity, objectivity, professional behavior, professional due care, and confidentiality.
Yeah. So what do you mean by, Joseph, professional behavior, professional competence, due care?
Professional behavior, we have to a finance manager should behave based on the professional standards aimed by the CIMA. And should not show any, should not accept any bribe, or should not show any, what, I'm not getting the exact word. Partiality to anyone.
Behavior is like complying with the rules and regulations or policies
Yes, yeah.
of the company, and obviously the legal what we have. It's not specific to CIMA. Like CIMA ethics obviously comes in, but professional is like what we have for our profession, what we are doing. Let's say as an auditor, you have to be a little bit of reserved. You cannot go and deal with everyone. We have their own requirements, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Then professional competence and due, it is about having that skills. We should accept,
Professional.
we should work, keep on updating us to have that skill. Objectivity is about being unbiased. We should not be biased about someone. This can be a leader favoring one person, or we as a business, we can favor certain supplier over others. That's also being objective. Maybe because we have a familiarity of that person, or we are working for them long time, we cannot be biased. That is a breach of objectivity. And integrity is simple. That's about being honest. Most of the situation will start with integrity only, being truthful. All right, so that's it from your role as senior finance. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the role is almost like a board of directors, except a few voting other stuff, right? On
Yes.
behalf of board of directors, everything we need to think about it.
Right, Shiva. We have to already think like a leader, like we discussed previously.
Right.
Though being
Yes.
a senior finance manager, I would suggest you think like a CEO itself,
Yes.
because questions can be anything. While writing, you can say SFM, senior finance manager, but when we are thinking or even suggesting strategy, think like you're running the board.
Correct.
Because in real world, senior finance manager will not be asked a question, shall we replace the CEO or the CFO or the chairperson? But here we have to take that tough decision, or we have to justify, shall we keep that person or not?
Right.
Even they can ask us about negotiating with the supplier, dealing with the government, anything can come up. Yeah. Then after introduction, we have discussed about this what is satellite, the basic thing, and three categories: LEO, MEO, and GEO. What we are doing is more into LEO, low Earth orbit. That is around like 1,000 kilometers. So we have more in this, and as we have seen in the 5 years, it is almost double, like 10,000, and it is going up. Maybe another 5 years, it can go to 20,000. So the market is in the growth stage. There is a lot of private players coming up into this sector. And then we saw the weight of it, how it is different. They'll not ask you questions for sure how much the weight should be. Nothing about science too much. I would say a lot of technical. Ultimately, our role is finance. Okay, so don't worry about that.
Right.
Then we have seen the autonomy, like what the body is. Again, this is just to understand. If we are designing, one of our role is designing. So how we can make efficient design? Like why we need this big solar panels? Can we just make it a little smaller or make a smarter design? Can reducing weight help us? How we can do the trial? How much time it will take? Who is funding it? Are we doing it 100% the research, or are we getting some support? All of this things will matter. And coming to the use case, the first thing we discussed was about the communication. It is used in communications. Second part also they are talking about communication only. They are saying how communication can be enhanced by launching constellations of satellite that can communicate with one another. So they won't have any problem if some issues happen with one. Then navigation. Navigation satellites are usually into the geosynchronous, which we are not focusing on. And obviously the best example for this is GPS. What we can do at LEO, low Earth orbit, is we can detect the interest of smaller groups like farmers association. So these are the private players. What I was thinking is this kind of market can grow, especially in the developed country. We have farmers or the association, they are having enough resources, they can invest in it, or even the government can come and support them. Right? What are the advantages of that? Monitor weather patterns, detect forest fires or volcanic eruptions. Recently, there was a fire in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So, situation like that can be, we cannot avoid completely, but at least we can control, or we have a better information. So, the uncertain situation will become a risk situation, and risk can be managed. But if it is uncertainty, it is very difficult. Measure atmospheric conditions, including air pollution, track the spread of urban development or the extent of deforestation. Even NGOs, I believe, they can use it. Environmental group can also use it if the other corporation is complying or not, just to have a track of that. But the biggest challenge with the companies and maybe for us also is the legal requirement. It's very easy to breach that legal requirement. So litigation risk can be there. Do we have the right to do? Because we can be breaching somebody's personal space. And obviously other benefits. Credits can be used to carry out a wide variety of functions in support of pure and applied R&D, research and development. Let's say it can be used for telescopes and sensors that can scan deep space free from distortion caused by Earth's atmosphere. Then it can launch for experimental space, vehicle auto test, propulsion system. So it can create alloys, other materials, ball bearings. So there can be number of use cases. Now orbits, if you want to divide into, we have polar orbits and equatorial orbit. Obviously, depending on the movement they are doing, but technically everything remains the same. The geosynchronous is more about communication, and non-synchronous is more about maps and other things. Satellites can be launched into any desired orbit. Polar orbit pass over the Earth's north and south pole, like you can see. What's the difference between both? Polar is like going north to south, and equatorial is going the other way. You can say east to west. The Earth rotates while the satellites continues their orbits. That means that a satellite can cover different part of the Earth's surface, which with each orbit that could be useful to tasks such as a survey mission. Why we need to know this? We need to know the use case and how it can help or what value technical. A lot of time we see different government is working together. Let's say like Russian government and US government, they have a collaboration. They are working together. Sometimes private player like SpaceX and NASA, they're also working together. Then the budgets can be higher. So if we start giving design, if we are contributing, for that projects, high budget projects, then maybe it's a better deal for us, or we can say a sustainable revenue model for us. Usually, if government is involved, or especially different government is involved, the project can be long lasting, let's say 10, 15, 20 years, or even more. So just given the technical aspect here, again, the orbit inclination is its angle in relation to zero inclination means a 90-degree. I'll share a video on this again, so it will be easy to just have an understanding. They'll definitely not test us on this, so you don't need to worry much about it. Again, same points. The Earth's gravitational pull is greater at lower altitudes.
But
Yeah.
Misbah, don't we any possibility did we get any question like please advise as a finance manager which one will be the cost effective or maybe based on the customer requirement, which polar orbit or equatorial orbit is better for us? Please provide advice. Something like that. If we get a question, do we get a question like that?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. The question can come. However, it won't be depending on the technicality. Like if it is in the lower orbit, the gravity is higher and what degree it is. No. If they ask you that question, they'll give you number in terms of finance. Like you said, cost and benefit. So they'll give you how many millions we are investing and how much return we are expecting. So your decision should be more on in financial terms, not on the technical terms. Even if they are putting let's little bit technical, or let's say they are coming from risk perspective. So we can look at what is the risk involved here. Is it with the reputation, or is it like too much technical to do, or it's a reputational risk for us? That's it.
Okay.
Nothing more than that. Like it take 100 orbits and it will take 24 hours. It's fine. We can look at the ground, what is happening, or what is the ecosystem. Again, we just saw that ecosystem is important. So now one more stakeholder we have got is like ground station, who is handling this. Then we have this mobile ground station also we have. Okay, regardless of their size, most satellite missions require some form of communication with operators on the earth. That communication requires apparatus that can transmit or receive signal to or from specific satellites. So usually if we see this ground station is not everywhere, again it should be very sophisticated. We can also, when we are talking about satellites, it's not like we just bring in value for them. If you bring value for anybody in the ecosystem, that is also a business for us. Or a same company might need for space and for the ground station. So this can be a good source of revenue for us if we are supporting them, if we are designing products for them, if we are providing materials to them, isn't it? The facilities that are used to provide contact are called ground stations. These are very enormously in size and complex. This can be a good source of revenue for us if we can create value for them. Think about it. The largest consist of arrays of satellite dishes that can handle large volumes and receive signals to and from distant satellite in GEO. So obviously LEO and MEO, they are doing low and medium, but ultimately geosynchronous is also being done. But again, we'll have very few ground stations. It's not like every city or every state they have it because of the cost involved. Then we can have smaller ground stations. Now, why we are looking at it? Firstly, this is a part of an ecosystem. And secondly, how we should look as a finance person is this is a different area where we can create value. It's a different aspect of the business. Or tomorrow, if you want to do a forward integration, what is forward integration? Let's say today we are a manufacturer and tomorrow we start or we are interested to
Launch.
Sorry,
launching the satellite.
Yes. Forward integration is like, simple example, if you have manufacturer today and tomorrow we want to just have our own retail space, our own wholesale space. That's like forward integration. So even in our case, today we are designing and supporting them. Tomorrow we can say, we'll acquire the ground station, we'll run the ground stations. Or at least we'll do this mobile satellite communication, mobile ground station will manage. So for this, we need to know the ecosystem. So ground station can be built into vehicles and used to provide mobile satellite communications. For example, television broadcaster might use a truck equipped with a dish. So usually now IPL is on. Cricket is the best example. So during that places we have stadiums, sometimes in outskirts of the cities and all. So we have lot of this ground station. You must have seen it. If not, if you just Google, you'll see it's very commonly available because from there they're putting it into the live telecast. Or even the defense team, let's say an army of certain country, they are going to a remote location. They have a certain ground station vehicle, like mobile satellite. It has a big antenna and all, right? And they'll communicate in a different way because they want to keep it encrypted. So that is also a use case of this. For example, a television broadcaster might use a truck equipped with dish and communication equipment to transmit live video via satellites from a sports event back into the studio, for which it will be retransmitted to viewers. So commercially, I believe this is a very good way because this is where we'll get a lot of funds. Imagine like we are doing it for IPL or we are doing for a football league, like a European football league. So going into this sector can be more financially profitable for us, isn't it? But obviously, it will come up with certain risk in that. Next, satellite antenna can be small enough to be built into portable devices, including satellite dishes supporting equipment that can be carried in backpack and handheld GPS receivers that enable users to navigate accurately. It's usually for individuals, or we can say like civil engineers or others who are working in remote areas or in jungles. For them, it can be very useful. The manner in which user will interact with satellites and the capability of the equipment that they are expected to use will be taken into account in the satellite's design and the planning for its mission. For example, it might be sufficient to place a CubeSat in LEO to provide temporary internet access for engineers working at a remote building site for the duration of the satellite's life. And recently, that Starlink, even internet is being provided now in India. Also, they're planning to launch with satellite. So the speed of internet will be very fast, and accessibility will be there into all remote areas. We don't need to depend on that traditional, right? We'll have that wiring, or we'll have that networks on the building top, and they'll put that antenna, isn't it? But with satellite, the speed will be very fast and it will be accessible even in the remote areas. This was more of temporary internet access, but now we have companies who are doing. And if you see the same SpaceX first started with that own rockets and everything, but now they are coming into commercial space. Maybe one of the reason is to fund the other projects, or they have their own shareholders, isn't it? So this can be a good option if we go into that. What do you guys think? Shall we just go into the project sponsored by government, or we can just think of going where we are helping consumers directly? Which kind of business can be more profitable for us or sustainable for us? What do you guys think?
I mean, Misbah, is that a question in general or relevant
In
to the
general,
case
I'm
study?
asking. In general.
Okay, in general, yeah. I mean, I feel it's a positive kind of a venture to get start to increase the revenue or kind of diverts our reserves as an investment to get a decent return of returns.
So as an investors, ultimately the returns matters, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, technically, like, I mean, in general, like, even if I want to link it back to this case study, we are into kind of that business. And of course, I mean, expanding or kind of stepping into this kind of a segment also would kind of enable or kind of what we call expand our capabilities, right, within the overall industrial domain.
I think tying up with the governments, with the different countries, and pitching into that countries, that is better. It could be like a business to business rather than like business to customers, B2C. Because this is a satellite business where a lot of rules, regulations will be available. Because a lot of, when we say satellite, obviously, because that's what even Elon Musk, Starlink struggled to come to India because of the data confidentiality, or there were a lot of issues, and even they couldn't launch directly, and so that's why they had to launch with tying up with Geo and the Airtel, So the government will not allow them to give his service directly. So it's always good to have a good connection with the political parties as well as with the government and work with them.
All right. So stakeholder management becomes very important, especially the government.
Yes, especially from the Leothayre's perspective, it is for sure it is very important. because these guys are giving a service to many other countries as well, and they expect the currency in W currency, dollar. Obviously, they are giving a service to other countries. So having a good relationship will definitely have a benefit from the policy making. And even if you look at the board of member, one of the member was from one of the political party, retired person. So that could have a bit of advantage from the any of the rules and regulations to get the favorable rules.
Right. We have to work in a way which is aligning with the government's interest, especially when this industry is still into the growth stage. We don't have private players or we don't have funds at the private players to do this. Funds as in, I mean, companies are there, financial institutions are there, but they are not ready to take so much of risk. Maybe one of the reason is they don't see good returns or they feel like this is so risky to invest.
Yes.
If the financial institutions start putting money in, automatically the industry will have a lot of money.
There is no guaranteed benefit.
Yes, there's no proven success, we can say that.
And also, like if we have a good relationship with the government, we can expect a lot of subsidies, and also like we can get a lot of grants where the company need not to invest much for the locations. Rather, the government will give the grants so that they can save a lot of amount.
Yes.
And keeping the long-term sustainability point of view also, because it's not just okay for the short term, right? Because it's a growing company where currently, as they said, like it is about 10,000. It is expected to grow up to 70,000 or blah blah. I mean, even more in the coming months. And most of the innovating companies, like especially with the technologies improving, looking at the AI, the fast track of AI in this world, everybody wants to come up with their own set of the system dedicated platforms or the services, cloud-based services, satellite-based services. The majorly on the like in navigation and the weather reports, which is literally helping a lot of other people. And if you look at the network also, when Elon Musk came, especially when they are trying to give a satellite-based internet, that will be a huge change. Suppose in case if the price is set with a reasonable pricing, especially in our remote locations, such as in my native itself, I don't have a network, so I always, even till now, we struggle to communicate with our parents or with others because they will be in the plants or somewhere like in the hill station or so. It's very difficult. We will not be able to communicate. If such satellite service came into picture, then it will ease out our struggles. So then a lot of us, we might switch to the satellite based services rather than the mobile network based services, so this could be a game changer from the point of like so that's the reason like the Geo or the Airtel, they are also, I mean, agreed to and signed the contracts with the Starlink to get that services. And even the Starlink also gained a market expansion in the India because they are targeting the huge market base, because the potential customer base is too high in India because of the population and the number of mobile users. So same way, everybody needs the internet, everybody needs to get the communication on the right time, and of course everybody needs the navigation support. So with that, probably we can link it to the Leothayre, how growth, I mean, what is the potential growth that we can expect. There are a lot of high chances for us to even further streamline from the service point of view, because our main vision is to give or facilitate the best in class life for the people on earth. So probably we can link it that way. So
Yeah, very good point. So ultimately, for a business, it's not the profit, but we have to work on the triple bottom line. That's what CIMA is saying. The other two is people and planet. So if you're helping, especially like if you talk from people perspective, people living in remote areas, if we just give them internet access, it's not only about connecting, but they can get job opportunities, they can learn. Lot of growth can happen just because of that. And going forward, every company want to have their own thing, and that can be a maybe a core competency also for them. So definitely the demand is going up. Now it's depending on us what we can do. Maybe tomorrow our company can start doing our own launching of satellite also. We can provide launch pads, or we can just have a ground communication system. Those companies might need to have their own satellites, but they will not be making it, they'll not be launching it, they'll not create the entire ecosystem, isn't it? They'll come to players like us or in our ecosystem currently who are the leaders. So they will be supporting like it. Just like now we have airlines. So it's not like everybody will have their own airport, right? So something like this can be built up in this area as well. One thing very important for us, being a listed company, for profit company, we are ethical and legally required to give good returns for our shareholders. So we have to take decision in their best interest. Now moving on. So we can see a rocket. So firstly, how we send satellites to space, because we have the Earth's gravity, the entire thing to cross. It's not possible without a very big force, without a very big what we can say power. Therefore, we need to use the rockets. So if you just divide into the three part, we have the payload. The payload is the object or objects, frequently satellites being carried by the rocket, carrying the payload to desired orbit in the rocket's purpose. The payload base stores and protects the payload for the duration of rocket flight through the Earth's atmosphere. So technically, what we need payload, but to send it there or to cross the Earth's atmosphere, which has a very strong gravitational pull, we need the other two. If you go with the first stage, the rocket's first stage contains rocket motors and fuels. These are used to carry the rocket from the launch pad to the upper atmosphere. So this is what the companies are talking about. Can we relaunch or can we reuse the rocket? Because this is where a major expense can again come up. Once the rocket reaches the planet's separation point, the first stage is disarmed and falls back to Earth. We can just it's removed. We have seen that in other videos. Just get separate because work is done. Same thing happened with the second stage. The second stage carries the payload way to the point where the satellite that it carries are released into orbit. The final stage contains rockets, fuel, and electronics that provide the rocket's guidance and control system. The stage is much smaller than the first because the rocket is much lighter after the first stage has been removed. The final stage remains attached to the payload bay, allowing it to maneuver in orbit and enabling it to drop out of orbit has been released. I mean, it's quite basic. What we can look at it is the risk involved. What is the risk, or what is the biggest problem is the financial aspect here. How we can make economic rockets. That's what like SpaceX was started, isn't it? They want to reuse the rocket. Is it possible? What thing or what role we can play as a player in the ecosystem? What we can be supplying in that? Satellites are launched into orbit using rockets which vary in size and maximum payload. We have seen that weight. Some rockets can carry a single large satellite while others carry multiple medium-sized satellites. or small satellites, many. There are several standard models for launch vehicle in operations. So third is launching. Okay. If you want to grow, we have seen launching, communication, mobile, all of that. This can be adapted to carry different payloads. If rocket has spare capacity, it can be used to launch additional satellites. Alternatively, it may be necessary to load blast such as concrete blocks to balance the rocket and ensure a successful launch. Basically, the infrastructure we need. Satellite launch requires careful planning to ensure that rocket releases its payload to a precisely determined point in space. Otherwise, everything will go burst. With the rocket velocity and orientation, and any error in velocity will affect satellite's orbit and could result in falling back to Earth. So this is more of a risk. It's not only
What is
reputational risk.
ballast, Misbah? What is ballast? Necessary to load the ballast, such as like a concrete blocks.
One second, where it is.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is there. First
The
paragraph.
first
last
satellite
line.
required. Alternate it may be necessary to load ballast. I think ballast, what they're trying to talk about is this payload and all. Payload bay. Technically, it is just about the infrastructure, as I said. What they need to launch the rocket, the blocks and everything. If you want, I can just. I'll find a picture. Just 1 second.
Sure.
Maybe that's easy to understand.
And moreover, second stage and first stage, both we have a fuels. What is the necessary problem?
So the first stage is just to cross the Earth's orbit. Then second one will be staying there until they go to the exact orbit position.
Maybe I'm not clear.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, please.
I'm seeing if I can show a picture for that.
What I read is like the first stage will be generally it is used for the first 2 minutes because that is required a lot of power to push
Okay.
from the gravity, so that is the reason.
Against the gravity has to go. Okay.
Yeah, so
For
the
the
more
motors.
gravity will be there. So that's why they use the more power and the first stage. Then the second stage will be used.
Okay. So you mean to say that I think the first stage is for the fuel for the motors, so it's push against the gravity. The second stage is something like the fuel needed for the electronics and other stuff, guidance and control systems. Fuel can be anything, right? It's not necessarily only the liquid. Can be battery as well.
No, I don't think the battery will be used for the rocket launch.
Oh, no, for the
Operate, they
guidance,
use the-
for the system guidance, battery can be used at second stage. They mentioned the fuel.
Yeah, we have battery also and fuel also. They have mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
And ballast precisely, it is used to adjust the center of gravity for the flight trajectory. So it's more about we want that rocket to go into the target or specific altitude, like it's LEO, MEO, or GEO, like that, low, medium, or geosynchronous.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So there is always a risk of falling back. So the entire investment will be a problem. So how we can get it first the correct time? So the entire ecosystem need to work on it. If the orientation is incorrect, then the satellite center may be pointed out to space instead of towards the intended location in the Earth. Incorrect orientation could also prevent solar panels from collecting sufficient light to produce power or could prevent clear communication with user. So we might have seen and heard in news many times the communication is lost or the communication is not proper. Why? Because the orientation was not correct. Launches requires complicated mathematical calculations that takes account of gravity and the Earth's movement as it rotates on the axis and follows its own orbit around the sun. So they use specific date and usually in specific timing also. Why? Because of the calculations, they are looking at the gravitational pull and so many other aspects. So technically, need a team of scientists working on this. And as we discussed, we cannot launch it from everywhere. We need a very sophisticated infrastructure with that. So there may be, one thing which is outside the industry. What I was thinking is, yeah, any questions? Yeah, Abu.
Hi, Misbah. These are like very technical. Do we really have to go in this detail about these technicalities?
I mean, as a Preseen, Abu, I would say it's good to read, but you don't need to know all the definitions. What does it mean and all? No.
That is why. So should we spend all this time on this?
We'll just go through it once. It might give us an idea, but you don't need to invest time on this when you're reading on your own or going forward. Good to go just once. But it is for sure they won't ask question on this, so no need to worry much. Yeah. Coming to the point, if you want to do a different source of revenue, we can think of making the infrastructure. We can go into a rated integration or diversification in the business. We can develop an infrastructure for the launch of rockets. Again, now we have to see what new revenue stream can come in for us from that area. Sometimes they'll ask you a question like we discussed in the start. What are the different revenue stream or what kind of product or market development we can be doing? Again, the same thing is repeated in order to reach Earth orbit, sufficient altitude in space, sufficient power, velocity, and everything. One way to boost rockets' horizontal velocity is to launch in easterly direction from a close to equator as possible. As we discussed, it should be on a specific location. The Earth rotates from west to east, so the rockets launch in direction that will benefit velocity. So all these technicalities need to be considered. It can also be launched from westerly directions, that is closer either to Earth's pole, but it will require additional power. Power is the main thing we need to consider. Or as in we need additional. And if it is a large rocket, it requires extra fuel. Technically, is the same thing, that is getting repeated. We'll just go forward. Spaceports are launched. What it is called spaceports are launch sites that several large rockets, most are located so that the damage of property is minimized, or we can say the pollution aspect of that also can be taken care. It's not within the city limits and all. With large items of debris being dropped into expanses of oceans or uninhabited desert to keep clear of aviation flight paths. So health and safety is also important. Then weather conditions also need to be taken care of. Prevailing weather must be considered when selecting locations of spaceports. High winds can affect the rocket's trajectory while it is in flight. Then local temperature can also be an issue. So many things which are uncontrollable is affecting the success of it. So technically, we're into a very risky business. Spaceports must also be accessible to operators. There's a very little point in locating spaceports. So we have all the complexities of any launching areas or any factory plus this extra thing. There is also locating in countries that are politically unstable or that have unsupportive governments. So I'm expecting one question for you is relating to the government. One variant out of three will have questions relating to the government. If I just quickly give you an idea what type of questions can come. Firstly, it can be a scenario of partnering with the government. Government is giving grant, government is giving subsidy. Second kind of question can be, we have a conflict with the government. That's not a good situation to have, but there is a possibility that government doesn't want private players to come in here, or they feel like private players is just motivated by the profit. That may be a problem. Or third case, which is even rare, but it has been asked in one of the exam actually, that government is helping our competitor, other private players. And that was unethical. Maybe because of the relationship of that company and the government, or the the leaders. So how to deal with that? So this situation can also come. So we need to have an idea how we'll deal with the government. Now, when the Leothayre was founded, but again, it is getting too much technical. This we'll do in the next session, but for now, I'll just move on to the mission and vision just to make it a little bit interesting. This one page we'll do later. Okay. Mission, vision, and values. So, firstly, what is mission? What is vision? What is value? So mission is the primary reason why we exist. It all talk about why. Okay. We cannot say our mission is to earn profit. We are here just for the share. Why we exist, why we are different, what value we are trying to create. Sometimes they'll ask you a question in the exam about evaluate the project, suitability, acceptability, feasibility. Or are we aligning with our business model? So what do they mean in both the question is, are we aligning with our mission, vision, and values? So it's good if you can remember the mission, vision, and values. You don't need to repeat the words, but you should have an understanding what we're talking about. Okay. Leothayre's mission is to lead in the creation and operation of satellites that meets the needs of clients for space-based facilities. They have nowhere mentioned we are just working for government or want to do it for them. So we are looking for a private place. Then is to lead in the creation and operation of satellites. So we want to create our own satellites also. So this might be a development, what we are looking at. To justify a question that a point that we need to go in making our own satellites, we can say our mission is already aligned to that. Another important point they have mentioned is leading. So it's like being an industry leader. When you talk about leading certain things, we are ready to accept that extra risk from our competitors. That also can be looked at.
Excellence knowledge.
Am I not audible, Shiva?
Yeah, I'm okay.
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 Then second one is about vision. What is vision?
Space facilities.
What do you understand by the term vision?
I think mission is something like at a very high level. Vision is kind of little bit next level of the mission. How actually it benefit, creating a benefit, something like that.
So mission is why we exist, and vision is our long-term goal, or long-term objective.
Okay. Okay.
For example, your vision can be to become a CFO. That's your vision. It's long-term goal. Now,
Yeah.
short-term objective is to clear CIMA. So same thing for a business. Vision is a long-term goal. And once that vision is achieved, they can have a different vision. Sometimes companies will make it very open-ended, so they don't want to change. Sometimes they'll make it close-ended. Once that is achieved, they will go to the next one. So all these statements are communicating with the stakeholders, including the employees. If somebody want to invest in a business, they will look at the values, mission of the company, what they are trying to achieve. However, one thing is, we are not bound to just do what we have mentioned here. We can easily take projects and go outside this. And this is in our control. We can always change our mission, vision, and values. So Leothayre's vision is to provide space-based facilities that can enhance the quality of life on Earth. Very good. I think that Starlink example can be a good one to use in the exam, because we are here to enhance the quality of life. When we say quality of life on Earth, indirectly we are talking about creating a quality of life of human beings for the society, isn't it? Even in natural calamities or something which is expected, satellites can help to plan better, reduce the losses, or manage the risk effectively. That is also one way of enhancing quality of life. Again, it is open-ended, so difficult. Now moving on to values. So what are values? Values are our principles which we will not compromise, even if it is like a difficult situation for the business or we have to compromise our profit. So when we talk about our values and principles, this is like must followed. When I say mission vision, we can go on take projects which is even not mentioned or outside industry is fine, but values should never be compromised. This question can be asked. They'll say, we have to do this, but maybe it's not aligning with the values. So what you can say? Straight away you can say, this is not aligning with our values, then we are not going forward with it. Ethics or being ethical, that is also one of our values. So Leothayre chooses excellence in all decisions. What do we mean by choosing excellence in all decisions? What can you guess? What does this statement means? I'm just asking general.
Best quality of the components we have purchased or the staff recruitment.
Best quality of equipment.
Components, equipment and staff recruitment.
In staff also, we are hiring the top cream, top talent.
Yeah.
What else?
Maybe they are good at with the negotiation with the launcher companies, because they give that service as well till the contract or till the launch. Like especially on the agreement related with the client and the launch companies.
Yes.
And also giving a customer service, retention of customers. I mean the clients, I mean to say, not the.
Right. And obviously, when you talk about excellence, we're not even saying good, better, best. Excellent, like even higher than that. It will come at a very big cost. So we are ready to invest so much, but we don't want to compromise on the quality or the commitment what we have. So that means we are paying higher than the industry average. We have better facilities, better infrastructure in every area what we are in. We're ready to invest a little bit of extra to achieve this excellence. Okay. Then Leothayre constantly innovates, anticipating client needs. Innovation, I mean, we are talking about this from the first page. Research and development is key in this business. Even another point what they have said, anticipating. So we are not just waiting the client to come and say what their needs are. We ourselves is anticipating. We are trying to be proactive to solve the problem or contribute to the ecosystem. Like how we can reduce the overall launch cost, maybe one thing. How we can do with the pollution or the environmental effect. How we can make something which is used for the common people. Right? So in B2B business, when we are working with other client, it's difficult. The other client will always give us, even if you go to a normal business, let's say it's manufacturing of automobiles or any other traditional business, there also the client might not tell us everything because there is also a risk of confidentiality. But we have to take the steps. We might have to do reverse engineering certain times, take the project products and open it up or do a certain way. But we have to anticipate. We have to know what problems they are facing and provide that solution. The easiest way to understand this is software companies. When they approach the other companies, when they sell their ERP, so they already have the solutions of the problems what the clients are usually facing, isn't it? How they do it, how they know it, because they have anticipated the client's need. For example, if you talk about Zoho, Zoho has designed such a way where they are targeting a self-employed or a very small startup to a big corporation. Even pricing and everything is done according to, or we can say, anticipating the client need. Then next, it insists on fairness and respect in the workplace. What do we mean by fairness and respect? Again, it's like, not a specific term. We can look at it in different factors. What is fairness and respect in the workplace? Or we can even think of what is unfairness and disrespectful at the workplace. What do you guys think?
Equal
toxic
treatment of
culture.
Sorry, one by one.
equal treatment in to all staff. No,
Equal treatment in terms of pay, you mean?
no discrimination between male staff and female staff. Their pay, wages, and everything. Or cultural wise, different nationality. If it is the staff comprises different nationality, showing some differences to different nationalities. That is.
Yes,
I
that
mean,
is.
Yeah.
to simplify, it is DEI, they say diversity, equality, and the inclusiveness.
Yeah. Following the high morality, treating everyone equal.
Okay. Or can we just make it more interesting? What are the normal issues employees face where they are not treated fair or where there is a little bit of disrespect? Because what we are talking is more on paper, but what usually happens?
Bossism.
Yeah.
Because the leaders, they should not be using an authoritative leadership style, so that will impact on the employee morale and the work culture, because that toxic work culture will create or demotivate the employees, whether it is in talent, whatever the levels they are in, but still we need to maintain that the fair treatment by respecting, especially with the professional behavior, the what we learned about ethical things. The same thing applies here. Yeah.
Bias among the employees and favorism. So those things
Yeah.
are common challenges across the globe, I would say.
Just to add on one more, like transparency and the communicating the objectives, what they want to achieve. So generally, do companies call out or publish what exactly they want to achieve during the beginning of the year? So something like that, if they want to achieve, or if they say there is a change in the vision or a mission, or whether it could be like a upgraded objective. So that needs to be well communicated.
Right. So disrespect is usually not can be manipulative. If they want to sell their decision, there is also disrespect to the employee, or they are not being honest with the employees. What else, or how we can solve that? So usually, if this kind of question is coming, it's very rare they'll just ask you the scenario or the problem. You have to, talk a little bit of solution also.
I mean, usually it's like a governance, right? So one form of the governance, I think most of the companies do have in place, but I don't know like how much efficiently these bodies or the committees would work. Like they call it a speak up. I mean, in my organization, they call it a speak up. Like you can, if there are any challenges, anything being observed by any employees, not by the team also. So people can raise it through different channels. It could be dropping an email or talking to a member or speaking to an individual. So like there are many options. And then once that issue is raised or anything is kind of a flagged, so that is how sincerely that is being investigated and then addressed that actually plays a role because it shouldn't actually fire back or the one who raised should not be kind of go through the difficult situation, right? So I believe that most of the companies do have these kind of a committee, whatever they be named, but it only matters is that how sincerely these being kind of led, but actually plays a crucial role, I believe.
Right. Ultimately, how much resources the company is investing and how the management is taking it seriously. It is just on the paper the values, or it is being implemented. How we are solving the problems. Like one.
Yeah, and also I believe the top-down approach, because usually like when people or leaders at the top of the org structure probably kind of they're super serious or kind of super specific about the values and the practices in the organization. But when actually it goes to the bottom level, it get diluted and people may not take it seriously. I think top-down approach is also matters how much it is being kind of monitored or taken seriously as a part of the leadership uh, guidance or the discussions. Because people rather only talking about the numbers or a performance or the key performing indicators, they should also talk about these aspects as a part of their governance or review meetings. Actually, that will actually enable everybody to be more engaged on these topics and be accountable at their levels or for their own teams.
Very good point. Because when you talk about, I think yesterday we were discussing why employees want to stay in the organization, how we can hire and retain the talented employees. One of the simple reason why we can lose them is just because we are not fair or we are not respectful. It's not only about the money. That's primary. But apart from that, in terms of promotion, in terms of dealing, in terms of getting the credit, a lot of time companies or the management is not taking it seriously, and that is demotivating, and a lot of employees will leave, especially good performing employees. They don't feel a lot of incentive to stay in this company, right? So this is a very important point: fairness and respect, and obviously it can be of different types as we have seen. Secondly, we can also link this to the next section, that is the board of directors. So in corporate governance, we talk about that we should have diversity. Now, even in certain times when you see any video when they are defining diversity, it's not only about men and women. It was long back. Now it is, we need to have people from different background. Like companies are now pushing to have people who are specially able or from like LGBTQ community and many other aspects as diverse as possible. And how we can have a diverse board, we can have it only if we are fair, if we are respectful what they think, where they come from. Otherwise we cannot have diversity at the board. And if you don't have diversity, you might not take a good decision or well informed decision. If all of us have a same mindset from same place, same culture, obviously we'll have misunderstanding about certain aspect. So the same thing goes from top to bottom and bottom to top. I believe we have a policy where we are taking this seriously. Okay, next, Leothayre develops and maintains strong relationship with its clients. This is a very again open-end statement. Develops and maintains. So how we are developing, how we are maintaining. Usually we can say we are anticipating, previous value. Okay, one of the reason we are maintaining a strong relationship. Pricing. Okay, we are giving them competitive pricing. We are being fair with them. We are being ethical with them. That is also one way of maintaining the relationship. What else? You guys also dealing with clients. What do you think can maintain a good, or what is like lesser known fact which can maintain a strong relationship? Integrity, confidentiality, all of those. What else? Delivering on time. Then helping them in difficult time. It's rare, but sometimes certain companies going through financial challenges or cash flow issues. That time also we can be a little bit flexible with the payments. What else?
I'm not sure how much it would be valued, but
After
having a
sale,
right
after sale
paperwork or
service.
the accurate paperwork before and throughout the transaction, possibly that could also help. I'm just thinking.
You're saying proper contract paperwork, as in like proper
Yeah,
contract
yeah.
abiding with.
Because it's not just limited to one country, right? So they might be dealing with these clients across the globe, and each country may have a different regulations or the requirements in order to kind of have this imported or get them set up. So probably having a right or accurate paperwork would actually ease the business transaction for both the parties, especially if you are taking care of our clients on this aspect. It would actually help or enable the strong relationship.
Right. Joseph, you're saying something.
Yeah, after sale service, providing quality after sale services.
So usually some companies might give a very good quality in start or good pricing innovation, but after sale service can be a problem,
Like
or
a
it
geo.
will take a longer time.
Like a geo. Initially, they came back with so many things. They were blasting the market.
Yeah, and what did they do now?
They are the costliest network nowadays.
The price has gone up.
Yeah. And moreover, there cannot be a pioneer in any one of the industry. They will come, break the market, they'll switch out to other business.
Right, disrupt the market. That's their business model.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Misbah, what was your question? Can you repeat once again, please?
Question is how you can maintain this when you talk about developing and maintaining strong relationship. What are like special points, uncommon points?
Committed to the word, like what we agreed, we have to provide on time, meeting the things on deadline.
Yeah, many times
I,
what
I
happens.
feel timing will be playing a key role here, because a lot of times what happens,
Yeah.
the clients will come up with the specific objective. Okay, certain time duration they want to launch their satellites. So in such situation, the commitment what Leothayre pays attention, because that's what we do. Like, we are excellent in taking an all decisions, or maybe we are very much transparent in calling out all the possibilities, because we don't give in any excess or false promises. That's what also next point. When we say that we are very clear in maintain the integrity and transparent with the clients, so with that, the customer will have a trust on us. If once trust is broken, then it will impact the other potential clients as well. So that's why they maintain or develop the strong relationship with their clients in terms of timely delivery, the quality delivery, and also the innovations, especially when we say innovations, because these guys work with the design also, because they do hear a lot of the client requirement very thoroughly, so that they will have an contract staff who closely work with all the clients to get the requirements listed out. And also they procure a lot of the quality materials or the components which are used to develop or design the satellites, and also a lot of testing will also be taken done before even launch of the satellite. So that assurance or even the quality checks, whatever these guys are producing, so that is helping them to maintain a good relationship with the client, and also like they are assisting with the contracts and with the launch companies, as I said earlier. So that is also in helping, because they are almost giving a kind of like an end-to-end solution, and also like a uh, uh, the ground satellite, or to receiving and transmitting the data. So that ground also this service also these guys provide. So which is ideally kind of like an end-to-end solution these guys are producing or giving in or facilitating to the clients. So that is one of the strong point where they are maintaining the good relationship with the clients.
Yeah, add on to that the communication, like how frequently we communicate about the projects. So we're not providing any surprise to them. So if anything they didn't go well on the time, so those things around, generally develop and maintain a good relationship with the clients. And moreover, agree providing the high quality. So we need to create a, I would say that confidence such a way that we never compromise on the product. See, we always use the high quality components or something like for the product the customer looking for, something like that. So those things, create a better, strong relationship. And yeah, I think treating them respectful and communicating with them, very clearly, and following the integrity. That's something, create a good relationship with the client and never look for a alternate competitor for them. So they'll stick with us. The comfort zone we need to create them.
Good point. Another point we can say again is related to the last one also. Many times companies, especially obviously sales teams, are doing this deal, and sales people are master in over promising. So it happens company over promise and under deliver.
Yes.
That can affect the reputation also for the business. So we have this value. I don't know how sales people are managing here. Hopefully, this is like a specific business or growing one. Otherwise, imagine having this value in other business. I believe it's very difficult to follow. Ideally, it should be, but it's not usually followed. So Leothayre
Yeah,
acts
but
with
I think
integrity.
here they follow Misbah. Looks like the next point, as they said, the integrity never promises more than it can deliver, which means ideally they are following that. I don't think they do anything false promise. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're following. I'm saying in reality, if you look at
In
other
reality,
business,
yeah, possible.
it's very difficult to comply
Yes.
with that. Ideally, every business should do, but mostly they don't do this because the salespeople have their own target, so they will be promising certain thing. The product might even not have that features. There will be a communication gap between marketing, sales team, then product feature. So many things. In fact, I was doing some research this week, and there is very big change happening in the market. Previously, the products obviously we are based on utility, but now a lot of products are coming in to the market, which is easily sellable. Just focus on the utility part of it. The products which can be sellable easily, market easily, that kind of product is being launched, or innovation is coming from the marketing side. They feel like this kind of products or service is easy to sell in the market. Now let's make a product like that. Previously it was like we make a product specifically. Now we have to find innovative ways to market it and sell it. So the dynamics is also changing, especially in the areas which is focusing on the want side of it. Need side still obviously the fundamentals, the utility is more important. The use case is more important. Okay, so next thing is board of directors. We can start this in the next session, but I'll just give you an idea where we are looking from. So board of directors we just saw in the requirement of a SFM in the introduction of the class, right? There they have talked about the corporate governance, the board of directors. So to test on those skills, they give the background of the board. For example, we need to know the key players and what is their background. For example, we have like Fatima Ayub here. She is the chair. So what is the background? Is she good for this position, or we need to replace? Same thing with the CEO. So when we go forward, we'll be doing a SWOT analysis of the entire pre-scene, what strength, weakness, opportunity, threat we have, and simultaneously we have to do SWOT only for the board. Why only for the board? Because any company is only as good as their board of directors. So we have to see, do we have the capabilities to become an, do we have that skills at the board level? And there are certain rules also we need to follow as per UK corporate governance, like we need to have 50% NEDs in the team minimum, excluding the chair. We don't want EDs, executive, to dominate. For example, if you just count now, chair is not included. Okay, so CEO is executive, this operation director is executive, so 2 executive, then Dr. Alex, 3 executive, then Gamzi, 4 executive, and Mark, 5 executive. Okay, now we need to have minimum 5 non-executive according to the best case of corporate governance. So let's see how many we have. We have Professor Alias 1, Kevin 2, Manal Al-Ramli, or you can say Manal 3. NED, 2 NED. Isn't it? Now we have to see what 2 NEDs we can get in, and also we can look at it at the skill level. Now we have an opportunity to bring in 2 NEDs. So which skill you want to prefer? So like this, we'll have a very good discussion on that. I'll share you something to read also for this on corporate governance. So when we discuss, you have some background on that. Okay. Then we have to go through the individuals. What is their skill? What is their expertise? Then we have to think like, if you are doing a product development or market development, which specific area can be good, and how we can decide a specific area depending on the skills we have. Let's say we have got somebody in our board who was managing the launch of rockets. So we can go into the launching business also directly. Why? Because we have an expertise and that person can be leading that project. Getting the point? Then, as we discussed previously, we need somebody from the, we need good relationship with the government. So we have got somebody from the government already. Kevin had a career in politics, including several years as a member of Wexland's parliament. During the time he took an active interest in industry and science. He sat on a number of parliamentary committees, including the committee responsible for an investigation into potential environmental impact of Wexland spaceport before permission for its construction was granted. So we have from the political background who was, actually an MP and even part of the industry and science. So what it is a strength for us, our business. Then we have got somebody from the university. That's also a strength to have a good relationship. Okay, because this question can be specifically also asked. Sometimes they might ask you, the CEO is resigned or chairperson is gone, which person can replace that position? So if you know the background of other NEDs, you can say that person can become a chair. Or if we have the background of other executive directors, we can say that person should be promoted as a next CEO. Okay. Any questions?
Misbah, I have noticed, I think when I look at the qualification for of all the directors seems to be fine, except that Fatma, the first one. So she is electronic engineer by training.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So,
how
so
come?
you're saying it's good or not for us?
How come the electronic engineer by training will, help us? Must be having some experience, right?
She was a head of the, she was already the CEO. She left the manufacturer to take up the role of head of education and faculty of engineers. She was subsequently promoted chief executive of the faculty. So she have manufacturing expertise.
Okay.
Electronic engineer by training means she is a degree is electronic engineer and she was into manufacturing. Because we are also into a ecosystem of manufacturing, though we are not manufacturing, but we are supporting to manufacture, right? So if somebody who is coming from manufacturing, they'll understand the supply chain, the problems, the risk, and all of those. And she was not anybody, she was like a CEO. CEO means she has been a part of different board already.
Okay.
And she's also a visiting lecturer at the Capital University. So I'm not saying this is the best profile. We have to just scrutinize each profile and see.
Yes.
What advantage, or can we have a better chairperson? Usually chairperson is non-executive, so they are not giving enough time compared to the executives. They are more tend towards, risk mitigation. They are responsible for the shareholders, non-executive, all non-executive, including the chair. They are like a watchdog to the executive people.
Also, if you look at Mark Jones, marketing director, he's just he's just a junior administrative role. If you go to page 14. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, no, about
Yeah.
oh yes, yeah. He's just a junior administrative role of a sales department of major aircraft manager. He demonstrated considerable talent, was promoted through various levels till until he was appointed as a senior sales manager. Responsibility included heading of sales team responsible for the sales aircraft logistics companies. Yeah.
So we'll go
Sure.
through it each
Yeah.
individually and we'll see
Okay.
what
Sure.
can be improved. You can also go through and make your points.
Yeah, sure.